I'm Mark Mazzaferro, Public Information Officer for the City of Vacaville, and this is another episode of On the Beat with Vacaville Police Chief John Carli. John, thank you for taking some time out of your day.
Thanks. It's a pleasure as always.
I see we have a guest with us today.
Yes, we do. You know, it's been here before, but Mark Donaldson, the lieutenant with the Vacaville Police Department, is a man of many talents.
Yes, and we're going to talk about some of those talents today, and the focus of our show today is communicating with the public. And specifically, we're going to talk about your recent uptick in your social media efforts for the police department. In case you haven't heard, social media is really big out there right now, folks. I know, it comes as a shock. But so why don't you talk about mainly your Facebook efforts and your Twitter efforts, because there was a piece on TV the other night, and I think I'm not sure that the piece portrayed it very accurately in terms of why we're doing it and the reason behind it. So why don't you and Mark talk about why we're doing what we're doing and what the end results hopefully will be.
Well, thank you. Always, it's a pleasure to have these conversations, because anytime that we can educate the public on what's going on behind the scenes, and literally this time it truly is behind the scenes of what people think of social media. Everyone lives on Facebook. Everyone has a Twitter account. Not everyone, but anyone who thinks they're important or socially or engaging in government is wrestling with the idea, how much information do you put out there, and how do you do this? And you could easily see, and I did as I was looking at this in the last couple of years, and I do have a little bit of a background in technology, and I recognized, let's secure the Facebook account for the police department. Let's work with you, City PIO, but there's a social engagement going on. There's a shift in our culture. On top of that, we're dealing with all the major media issues plaguing law enforcement on trust and legitimacy. And it really requires an engagement more than we've ever done before. This idea typically that you're going to be silent and quiet about the facts, how quickly we're being judged by the fact that we're not sharing. So there's always going to be a naysayer in the group, and it's a challenge when you're shifting a culture, even within government. But it's one of the biggest things that I've seen, and we put it on our program agenda within this last year to truly kick off what it means to not just do crime prevention, but community relations, not just being a PIO such as yourself, but to actually engage on a regular basis with a community that wants to partner with you. So this is where we're at. Right. So 2015 was okay, it's time to roll this out and be active in our social media platform, especially with Facebook.
And you know, it's funny, the city has had a Facebook page for quite a while now, and it started out kind of and part of that was my fault, because I didn't embrace it like I probably should have, you know. And then you start talking to people and you realize that very quickly that either you're on Facebook or you're not very valid or legitimate as much as you should be. You're certainly missing a great opportunity to communicate with folks in a very I don't want to say safe environment, but a good environment, you know, one that people are accepting of. So we started, the city started being a little more aggressive with our efforts on Facebook too, and it's been great. You know, it's a great way to instantly get your message out to as many people as you possibly can, and our likes have grown, and as you'll say in a few moments, I'm sure you've seen the exact same thing. You know, you're feeding your Facebook page and it's growing.
And with that, I think it's very important to know that there's a purpose behind it. You know, it's a simple question. You might have some in a community that might be very critical and saying, don't you have something better to do? In this day and age, engagement is important to me as a chief, because half the time it's a lack of knowing what's going on or knowing what procedures are. And so what better way? We've heard all kinds of programs, Coffee with a Cop. What's the purpose behind it? It's to engage and to see the other side. So all our programs are based like that. This one is every day, and it's been very successful so far. And the reason why, you know, Mark can speak to it, because many times I've been in the public's eye in the last couple of months, and the number one thing I hear is, whatever you're doing, it's fantastic. We love the fact that you're engaging us and you're telling us right or wrong, and we're learning along the way. There's no doubt, coming to staff, coming to you, and working within our own group. How do we do this in a way that we're learning but were going to be effective. And so I very often quickly say thank you, appreciate the support, but the the person behind the shroud of who's posting is, I made it very specific, it's going to be somebody on command staff, and that's Mark Donaldson. So Mark, certainly somebody who understands the social side of this, and a lot of us live, some people have social media Facebook pages, but the goal here was to find somebody in the department that had authority, that could speak on the issues that I could trust, and that could work with you and other staff members and answer the questions in a way that would engage people. And so Mark was the person behind it until today. Now we know who it is. He's been revealed.
We've pulled back the curtains.
That's
and,
right.
It's the Wizard of Facebook for the City of Vacaville Police Department.
That's right.
So, and you also have a connection to Mark Zuckerberg, I understand. You guys have the same first name.
Yes.
Okay, that's a very weak and tenuous connection. But so tell us, Mark, how's it been going since you've jumped into this effort with both feet now and going full blast?
I have been just pleasantly surprised, and more than anything, just so impressed with what a supportive community that we have. Almost all of the comments that come in when we do post things are very supportive of the police department. Our community appreciates our efforts, that we're engaging with them. We're getting them involved in the process. We're keeping them informed of what's going on in their neighborhoods, and they truly appreciate it.
A regular theme on this show with you, John, and your predecessors has always been the willingness of our residents to assist the police department, and maybe this takes it to the nth degree in terms of our ability to not only get the message out about what's happened, but for them to respond with information. So why don't you share some of our more recent successes? Because we've had a bunch. It's impressive.
Yeah, we've had some great success stories in partnering with the community to assist in solving crime. One of our recent stories was of the sex offender that was on parole, cut his GPS ankle monitor off. Within 24 hours, that suspect was caught in the city of Manteca. We partnered with Manteca PD. We shared information with Manteca that came from a Facebook tip of where they believed that the suspect was located. In fact, he was found at a home in Manteca and taken into custody in less than 24 hours. Another recent case was a identity theft case, which many of us in the community, myself included, have been victims of. I think it's something that affects a population as a whole and really speaks to our citizens. We posted some photos of some surveillance footage, and within 24 hours we had all individuals identified, and those are now leads that we'll be able to follow up on and hopefully hold those people accountable for their crimes. I
know criminals aren't the brightest people on the face of the earth, right? But doesn't everybody know that ATMs have cameras that take their pictures? I mean, come on, let's see. I stole someone's ATM card. Now I'm going to stick it in a machine and let the machine know that I have the card, and boom, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think people are probably somewhat familiar with that. I think what you're seeing now is law enforcement using the power of social media to get that message out, or get those photos out, and then soliciting the public's help and helping to identify them like never before. So that's something new you're seeing, and hopefully criminals will take note of that, and maybe that'll deter some of their crimes.
And not to go off on too much of a tangent here, but the card they had, the person whose card it was, they had their PIN number written on the card. Not exactly a good idea.
Right, correct. And so
that's going to be our tip of the day at the end of this show, John. Okay,
that's right.
Go ahead, Mark.
A great tip, and that was also an opportunity in sharing the story to educate the public as to the dangers of writing PIN numbers on ATM cards or important passwords on documents of why you don't want to do that. So again, getting the message out there, asking our public's help to identify them, but also kind of an educational piece of how not to fall victim to those kinds of crimes.
So let's talk real quick about photographs, okay? Because if you do any research at all on Facebook and Twitter and the use of social media, and in fact there are social media sites that are strictly photographs, posts that have video or photos are far more read and effective than posts that are just text. So you guys have raised this to an art form now, and I think it's cool. And yet some people, I shouldn't say people and be too general, but there are some individuals who think that's not right, that's not fair. I could go into the whole legal side of it. I'm not an attorney, I just play one on Channel 26, but from my newspaper days, basically anything I see from a public spot is fair game. There's no expectation of privacy, even if you're in the back of a police car. Now, if I'm standing there and taking a picture and I post it on my Facebook page, what's the difference if I do it or a police officer does it for his organization? Not only to identify this guy to the public as a possible criminal, but maybe someone has encountered this guy in a crime situation and we need more information. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're absolutely right, and that's exactly why we're doing what we're doing. We feel that the public has a right to know that information. They want to know that information, and that's in fact why we share that. We believe informing the community makes it a safer community, right. And we want to put that information out there so that they're aware.
Yeah, I kind of struggle a little bit with people who get upset about it, but you know, it's like you said at the beginning, John. It's not 1960 anymore, right?
We don't send faxes out. Maybe the government has still the official channels that we use. We'll be kicking off our Nixle here. CHP used it yesterday in an Amber Alert. So there's very effective tools to use, but you use them in balance.
Right.
And this is about the social engagement. I mean, the experiment. Nobody could have ever predicted. You're in the media industry, it's been your history. It's changed, it's evolved, and what we're trying to do is evolve with it so that we can be effective. The amount of people that we can reach is so much more, and then we get to control what it is our purpose. Our purpose isn't to shame people. The post that we will use is usually trying to engage a public that's interested, that can help us identify people, and we can move the message out there. We can identify property. And if for some reason there's a photo of several people who've been arrested because they've hit some of our stores in town, well, we're a target as you look at Interstate 80 through the whole Bay Area. Right. And if for some reason it engages this dialogue that causes people to think twice, well, isn't that a preventative measure as well? It's tremendous, and most of the questions that people don't ask are asked and answered by someone else, and so we are reaching more people. We can put 30 people in a classroom and educate those who want to talk to us and engage, but the ones that want to be on the fringe of what's going on still want to know what the police are doing. It's a huge topic right now, right. And so we're trying to be as proactive as possible, but with balance.
Right, and like you said, people want to know, and when I previously would send out a press release, I'd almost immediately get a call back from mainly TV. Do you have a photograph of this individual, right? All right, well, we'll send him a photo and it's on TV. Nobody seemed to have an issue with that.
That's
so
right.
When we eliminate the middleman and we say, well, here he is, all of a sudden there's a problem, that kind of doesn't make sense.
That's right.
And again, our goal is not to humiliate or embarrass anybody. It's to keep our community safe, If our motives were something else, then I could understand people being a little upset, maybe. But our motive is to protect our community and our residents, and that trumps all. So
something else I'd like to speak to also, because something that can happen is whenever you put anything in the public light, in the media, you watch the news. People don't probably watch the 6 o'clock news like they used to, just riveted, because it's 24-hour cycle, constant. Right. But the reality is the more you see of something, the more you think that's all there is. And so it's easy for someone who might look at this and say, wow, crime is just going crazy. When in fact, we could have a separate dialogue about where the crime is, and we enjoy a relatively low crime rate in Vacaville. Right. More importantly, something that's very important to me is we, in this interest of keeping crime down, that which does occur, that is unavoidable, how can we look at the outcomes and solve them? And so the engagement has helped us tremendously to solve these crimes more than anything else. So I never want people to think, hey, look at all the crime that's happening in Vacaville. Look at all the other engagement that's happening. But we're utilizing nearly 100,000 residents. And the following that we have now created is coming really close to matching that of Sacramento. So it's been, I look at that and say, thank you for what you've done, because I asked staff, I said, this is going to be a major undertaking, and I think you realized how much it is, but you also, and I'm hoping the community recognizes the value of it.
Well, I'm sure they do. I'm certain they do. And you're right. It takes a lot of work, but the benefit is far outweighs any extra effort, or it's worth the price. You know? And another thing about posting photos and using social media, it's a lot safer, for residents who want to respond. I mean, I remember in the early days, okay, the resident got an award because he followed somebody around who had robbed a bank, and he was calling on his phone until I'm like, okay, that's extreme. Now it's, oh, I saw that guy at the grocery store or McDonald's or whatever. I just post to Facebook. He's here right now. Off you go. It's there's all kinds of upside.
Yeah, that's right. There's a national trend also going, and I was up at the Capitol last week, and one of the commentators that was presenting to Legislative Day for law enforcement made a comment that on the media, what they saw that was more interesting than seeing some event play out that involved the police was the crowd of 15 to 20 that were nearby, every single person with their cell phone out, trying to get pictures and video, because that's where the media is being driven. So the fact that we're actually trying to do it in a way that helps us, we're getting instant feedback, and we're also getting information that's helping us. So why wouldn't we do that?
It's funny. You talk about people with their cell phones shooting videos, taking pictures, and where do you end up seeing a lot of that stuff? On the news. That's right. They send it through the website. It's like, wow, now you don't need reporters or cameramen anymore. Just wait until the video starts pouring in from all these folks who are witness to these activities. And I guess the camera doesn't lie, but by the same token, they're not exactly trained news gatherers either. That's always my problem with folks and especially aggravating, except in our cases where you would see the news media quoting Twitter, and according to this Twitter post, and I'm like, that's not what I learned in journalism school, right? That's not exactly a reliable source. Although now it's accepted as a reliable source pretty much. Well, it's a certified Twitter account. Well, what does that mean? That you went and saw whoever it is posting, you saw with your own eyes, Michael Jordan or whoever it might be put that tweet up? Yeah, I don't believe it. So, but in our situation, as a government agency, we kind of have to prove to these guys we are who we are. So that makes our efforts even more viable, more legitimate. So I'll be honest with you. Initially, I wasn't a big social media guy, and personally, I don't do a lot of it. But I see the value, and I see how important it is in terms of communicating with folks, both the city's message, police department's message, the community's message, and it's a great place to go back and forth, to find out what people are feeling and respond. So that certainly has been your experience.
Yes.
Yeah, it really has. And so where do we go from here? We do have a Twitter account, but that's that balance of, there's only so many hours in the day, and I can't expect Mark or other staff members. But as we grow this, the goal is to do it responsibly, is to recognize that every post is either going to get to know us more, get to know the community more, and get to know the issues more, and how we can turn it into a positive or a way to educate if there is, some break-ins because of things left in a car. Well, how can we educate so that we can lessen the impact of the theft and our resources? Yeah,
and my experience on my side has been, when there's an accident on a freeway or even in town and a street is closed, and I'll hear it on the scanner and I post it right away. And instantly, oh, thank you, I'm leaving for work, or I'm leaving for home in 5 minutes. You saved me a lot of time, saved me a lot of hassle. How good is that? I mean, you can't do but you can't ask for better results than that, and that's kind of like the PIO dream, I guess, is to see your communications be effective and get a response immediately. Certainly, as a journalist, you want to generate a response, good or bad, as a columnist or a writer, whatever the case may be. But in this case, we're just trying to inform folks about what's going on to keep them safe and happy, and quality of life. Right?
That's right.
It's a big part of what we do. So, Well, anything else you want to share? What's on the horizon social media wise? Because we already got Facebook and Twitter. I mean, any big social media trends we see out there?
I don't want to tip the hat too far. I did mention that Nixle is coming because, you know, I was in front of a group recently and they said, well, how are you going to announce if there's something that's of a major issue? And because we're always dealing with how do you notify through telephone systems, and everybody's changing. They're going from voice to data to texting, and so where does this leave us? Nixle's on the horizon. That should come out, and that will be something that I'll look to you to help educate the community, because the county does it, Fairfield does it, and it allows us to give out formal information. But a formal information is very different than the social side where people are living. So as we're learning that balance, I would like to say that in the coming months, you're going to see Vacaville PD will have an app. And that app will be able to pull all the resources for the city together, how to get to the city's website and the Facebook pages and all the things and resources that a community member can use, but also how to do some field reporting. So that if you see something and you want to report it, it instantly goes to those who will need it. So that's on the horizon. Cool.
It's pretty clear that technology is, and here's a big revelation, technology is changing our lives every day. Okay, you can quote me on that. But it's such a tool now that either you're doing it or you're way behind.
That's right.
And we're doing it, and we're trying to get ahead of the curve. So good work, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thanks as always.
It's not cheap sometimes, and it's certainly time consuming, but the end result is well worth it. So thank you for being on the show today, Mark. Again, maybe we'll have you back soon to talk about any number of other issues you're dealing with. SWAT, maybe we can go out on a ride along or something. And John, as always, thank you for your time, and thank you for watching this episode of On the Beat with Vacaville Police Chief John Carli.